two teams who seem to be headed in opposite directions meet on Sunday in Minnesota when the Detroit Lions come to town to take on the Vikings. Detroit is currently installed as a 1-point favorite in this game on BETDAQ. 46 is the total. Now the Lions have won 3 out of the last 4 to even their record at 4-4. They got off to a very disappointing start to this season. Remember, this Detroit team won 10 games last year. They were a playoff team. They're viewed as a young, up-and-coming team, so a lot of people thought they would challenge Green Bay in the NFC North this year. Turns out that team has been Chicago, and Detroit currently sits in the basement. However, they're only a half game behind this week's opponent, Minnesota. Minnesota got off to a great start to the season, won 4 out of their first 5 games, but they've been on a slide. They have lost 3 out of the last 4. Their last 2 losses especially have to be very concerning for Vikings fans. The defense, which has been so good early in the year, really starting to show signs of slippage, giving up 66 points combined in their last 2 games versus Tampa and Seattle. And coming into those games, neither Tampa or Seattle were viewed as a juggernaut on offense. So 2 disappointing performances in a row from the Vikings defense. And even more worrisome, I think, if you're a Vikings fan, has been the play of quarterback Christian Ponder over these last few weeks. Ponder got off to a good start to the season, really taking care of the football, but that has all gone by the wayside. And sitting here right now, the Vikings, who rank 30th in the NFL in pass yards per game, they're a team that clearly has a defined weakness, and that weakness is quarterback and the ability to pass the ball. And the best wide receiver, Percy Harvin, spoke out about that after the game last week against Seattle. Couldn't tell whether he was criticizing Christian Ponder or the offensive coordinator or maybe both. No doubt it's not a good sign when one of your best players starts going public with his frustration, but the Vikings passing offense has been getting worse and worse over the last few weeks. And the Lions, on the other hand, they have no problem with their passing offense. They can really throw the football. Number 1 in the NFL right now in pass yards per game, averaging 307 yards per game through the air. But Detroit, despite the fact statistically they look okay, top 10 in the league, total offense and total defense, hard to put your finger on it, but they've been a very disappointing team. Really, only last week's game against Jacksonville could Detroit fans call an unqualified success. The rest of their games, even their wins, have been very ugly wins, but we see them listed as 1-point road favorites here against Minnesota. I think that has a lot to do with what people thought of these teams coming into the season. Like I said, Detroit was supposed to be an up-and-coming team, a team that many people thought would make the playoffs again this year, and most people picked Minnesota to finish last in the NFC North. And I think after these last couple of weeks, a lot of people think that, hey, Minnesota, they are the team we thought they were. They are going to finish last in the North. And Detroit, I guess people see that they've won 3 out of the last 4 games and think these Lions are rising, but I'm not yet quite convinced about the rise of the Detroit Lions. So I actually lean towards Minnesota in this game. Minnesota returning home. The Lions have only covered 1 time in their last 7 games in Minnesota. The Vikings, even though they've slipped a little bit the last couple of weeks on defense, this is still a very solid defense, I believe, especially in the front 7. And I do believe they're going to respond with a good effort this week against a Detroit offense that is better statistically than they've actually been in games. A lot of the yardage they've racked up, again, last week's game against Jacksonville notwithstanding, which was a blowout win for them, but in their other games, a lot of that yardage, or some of it anyway, came in garbage time, sort of at the end of the game when they were forced to throw the ball. And some of that time, the garbage time, was their best offense. I mean, it looks like, I know Detroit Lion fans have been saying, well, why don't we just go with this offense throughout the whole game? Because the Lions have been a team where this season, where they've been in the fourth quarter where they're forced to throw, sometimes they've finally been able to move the ball after they've struggled to move it all game. But I think the Vikings defense is going to have a little bit of success here. And I also expect Detroit's defense to have a little bit of success. I do not trust this Vikings offense right now, even though Adrian Peterson is playing great football, and I think Percy Harvin is one of the best 3 or 4 wide receivers in the NFL. Do not like the Vikings quarterback, Christian Ponder. Seems to have lost some confidence over the last few weeks. I mentioned he's playing worse and worse. Prone to the turnover, was last year, was throughout his collegiate career. He had cleaned it up throughout the first few games of this season, but has started turning the ball over again these last few weeks. So I'm a little concerned about both offenses here. My favorite bet in this game, I believe, is under 46. You look at these two teams, and the under is 7-2 in the last 9 meetings between these two teams. They played a few weeks ago. Minnesota won that game 20-13, 33 combined points. The total in this game might not be that low, but I do expect it to be somewhere in that neighborhood, low 20s, high teens, a game like that. Now, Minnesota did beat Detroit on the road earlier this year, no question about that, but those two teams looked a little different at that point. Detroit was really struggling, and Minnesota was sort of in the middle of that surge. These two teams look like different teams now, but I still have a slight lean towards Minnesota at home in this game, and the bet I like a little more is under 46.